This is Lysha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruitment podcast. And I am so excited and thrilled to welcome to our global community today somebody that I've had the pleasure to meet in real life. In fact, I think he's possibly sat over my left shoulder on more than one occasion at events and live events and expos, breathing down my neck, giggling away. But I'm so excited for you to get to know him. If you don't already, you should do. This is Dries De Coster, and he is the founder and MD of Chat Automation Limited, if you're watching on video, with the most gorgeous selection and array of things that we have already discussed off camera, but I'll let him introduce them if he wants to. One particular on his left shoulder, actually. Welcome to you
Oh,
today. How are you?
yeah, very well, thank you. How are you? You kind of make me sound a bit like a lurker there, Lee. You just
Oh, yes,
sat
sorry.
breathing down your neck behind you somewhere at an event.
We sat, I think you sat near me at the expo or in 2023, and then you
Yeah,
sat next to me at the Recruitment Connect event that Simon Lewis organised in Manchester. So there's
at
two events where you've sat literally behind me.
least two. Well, you've got such a gravitas and such a pull, it's hard to, right?
Or maybe it's just that I'm always that eager schoolgirl sat on the front row, and I think you might be the eager schoolboy, possibly.
Could be
I'm one of
that.
those. I like to be at the front. I just like to make sure I'm catching everything. Look, there'll be plenty of people that will have seen your amazing sort of James Corden style car videos, but I want everyone to get to know who you are, what your business does, and what you do.
Yeah, so Dries de Coster, first and foremost, the name's Belgian, right? So let's get that out of the way. And no, I won't be offended if you mispronounce it. But I moved to the UK in 2005. Like you said, Alicia, I founded Chat Automation last August. And we do two things. We do conversational AI chatbot technology. But really what's taken off like this is what we do with this little fella here. So that I think that's what you were referring to when you were talking about on my left shoulder. His name's Dwight. He's our digital worker bot. He stands for Digital Worker Interface for generic human tasks, and that's what we do. We take recruitment companies, mainly middle and back office processes, and automate those at a fraction of an FTE, so that you can repurpose the efforts of your people onto more meaningful tasks.
Absolutely love it. And I have to say, Dwight's got a real Harry Potter-esque feel to him.
He does a bit. I mean, he was initially he was going to look like Dwight from The Office, but we bottled it on that one out of fear of getting sued. So yeah, he's
I love it.
kind of the specs make him look a little bit Harry Pottery.
So, what's been your route to launching your own business in 2023? I didn't realize you were that embryonic. I don't know, I thought
Yeah.
you'd been for longer than that. But talk us a little through your journey.
Well, we were very embryonic until I would say summer of this year. Now things have just gone crazy. So yeah, the growth has been pretty phenomenal, and we're looking at actually at expansion as well into the US and putting boots on the ground there because the potential and the clients we already have there is pretty massive. But yeah, listen, I've been in software, predominantly HR and payroll software for a long time at places like SAP SuccessFactors. Then the Access Group as well. I started a brand new division for Access, which was in hospitality. So I was employee number one to be brought in to help grow and scale that business. And then I left a kind of early part of last summer. And I've always wanted to do my own thing. It's never been the right kind of time because of kids' ages. I've got three children. They were too young. Financial stability, etc., obviously is important too before you kind of venture into this. And it was very much a case of when this idea presented itself for me was a now or never kind of situation. So here we are. We spent the first, I would say, 6 months really focusing brand build. Those of you who see me at events, I'm always wearing something that's embroidered. And so the focus has been on that. You've alluded to my podcast, Recruiters in Cars Getting Coffee. We've been fortunate enough to have some amazing guests on that. The last guest was James Reed, CBE. We've had Gary Eldon on as well. He was our first guest, actually, OB, as I like to call him, by his title, which he doesn't like so much. But yeah, that's all been kind of part of the brand building phase. And really what we're doing is taking an existing technology with our own spin on it in an affordable way with very practical examples into, as I say, middle and back office. So a lot of it is around onboarding automation, doing things like credentialing, background checking. So mainly in the kind of temp sphere all the way into back office, which is often looking at extracting time out of various VMSs, reading timesheets that are coming in via PDFs or images, whatever, and then putting that into the system and existing tech stack that people already have.
Absolutely love it. And I have to say, I do love your podcast. It's one of those that I tend to watch yours rather than I think it has to be watched. And it's just really unique and really different. So I would encourage anyone that's listening or
By the
watching.
way, you referred to James Corden. There is no singing goes on the podcast, so just to
And
put everyone at ease. But
and he's
the
he's
aim,
also Marmite, isn't he? It's only because I think people will know exactly what the vibe is. That's
yeah.
what but you're far lovelier than him, and I think probably far funnier.
Well, I'm sure I'm Marmite too, right? But the point of it is, hopefully, you get plenty of personality on both sides, right? And for me, that's really important. When I started chat automation as well, I think everyone's done with the kind of corporate UK, market where everyone presents this polished image on LinkedIn and whatever else. I am who I am, whether I'm speaking to you, I'm dealing with people that work for us, dealing with clients, or I'm at home. So I think that's really important. And what I try and do is bring that out in the guests as well. So there's some business insight, but also you get to find out a bit about the life story and their journey through their recruitment career as well.
So where you're, I mean, obviously you're coming out, and this is what's brilliant about my podcast, that I'm not just necessarily having people who are running 360 recruitment businesses on.
Right.
But I think that this podcast has a responsibility to have a holistic approach to how we can all make ourselves better. We have a global audience, and actually a large percent, there's about 30% that are over in America. So that's really good if you're looking to penetrate. There's been some fantastic guests that we've had on the other side of the pond. And I think I've been in this industry now for over a quarter of a century, which makes me feel
You're not old enough. No, you must have been doing this in junior.
26 years in December. So when this goes out, probably will have just celebrated my anniversary. And I've seen that, so many inverted comma threats to the recruitment industry,
Right.
so many ways that it's the death of the recruitment industry, really showing my age. It was, computers were a threat, job boards were a threat. This is back in the 90s when I started. Then you had LinkedIn came in about 15, 16 years ago. And
Yeah.
you see is very binary answer. Two sets of people. One is the people that embrace and are so-called
Yeah.
early adopters or even late adopters. I don't think it really matters as long as you use it. And those that go, that is just not for me, that's not going to work. And what tends to happen to those in the latter camp, which I know is a very generic spot, is they tend to then be the ones that play catch up. They tend to be the ones where people aren't attracted to the businesses. And my job is about attracting to those that are forward thinking. We've been talking about, on this podcast alone, we've been talking about AI and automation for at least
Right.
the last 2 years, but probably not before that, actually.
Yeah.
I think, anyone that's clicked on this link has done so because you're a good drawer. I think you've got a good reputation. But what advantage does Dwight give that potentially, if somebody's got a really loyal member of staff that's doing all these things now,
Yeah.
doesn't want to be responsible for making someone redundant. They've got
Yeah.
a life, they've got a mortgage, they've got kids. What?
Yeah.
Let's talk about real people here making these difficult decisions. How can do I benefit that person and then the leader that's looking at cost?
Great question. So let me answer that in a couple of different ways, if I
Oh,
may. I think first and foremost, we talked about AI and automation there. I did a talk at Rec Expo as well, which is available for anyone that wants it. I can send the YouTube link, but really that was focused on bringing real examples to life, because lots of people, like you say, we're tired of hearing about AI and automation, and then you kind of ask, okay, but show me how it's going to impact me as a recruiter in my life.
yeah,
The room goes a bit quiet, and a lot of it as well, a lot of the off-the-shelf functionality that's available is focused on the top of funnel stuff,
yeah,
finding more candidates, doing kind of CV formatting,
yeah,
or finding clients. And actually, the bit that's neglected, I was talking to one of the SIA analysts yesterday about what we're doing. So coming to a report near you, nice little plug there. But a lot of the kind of middle and back office often gets overlooked. And to your point, when you talk about early adopters versus laggards, you've got to get operationally more efficient, right? So most people have gone through a boom period in 2022. We're able to buy software because it was nice and shiny. We're very much focused on look at the business case first, and actually look at your operational efficiencies, because if you don't adapt this kind of technology, you will fall behind because margins are getting squeezed and for other reasons, right?
yeah.
So, but to address your specific question, we've got a few, actually one that went live on Tuesday over in the States. They don't mind me calling their name. I'm actually doing a video with them later, and they're already looking at more Dwights that we're scoping. Company called the Winter Group. They're in technology recruitment in the US. in the Bay Area, and they had a real issue moving data from one system to another. So that was onboarding into their pay and bill system. So from CRM into pay and bill, doing the background checks, sending the contract, etc., to the candidates. That we were able to automate. That was the job of 3 people. But ultimately, what we're seeing without fail, and we've got it with UK clients the same, is Dwight is being used for one of 2 things. So either to help recruiters grow without growing. So i.e., there's a part in my middle and back office where at this rate, I'm going to need more people. We're saying, hey, consider a digital worker bot because it's more effective and more cost effective and more productive. Or we're looking at the kind of outsourcing alternative, we call it outsourcing 2.0, where you are looking at saving people's time, but almost without fail, Lysha, you know, and I initially thought this would be mainly like a hard cost saving, but all of our clients have actually taken the headcount that they have and then have repurposed them onto other jobs because there's always more things to do, right? And the clues in the name with Dwight, the GH bit, it's generic human and then tasks, right? So these are the elements of a job that you and I don't want to do because it's not enjoyable. So what we are seeing, as I say, almost without fail, is we're automating that mundane existing process over existing systems. So you change your stack. But we're taking that away from people's jobs either in part, in most cases, or sometimes completely. But then those people are being asked to do different tasks that actually require more brain exercise and inadvertently means that from a recruiter perspective, you end up with more engaged employees and therefore your retention rate should be going up as well. So that's, as I say, almost without fail is what we're seeing. So is it a threat? It can be seen as a threat, but actually from everything I've seen, it's an opportunity, both as an employee for a staffing or recruitment company, as well as for the owners, right? Which was the second part of your question, because it's quite easy for us to look at what's the impact of putting Dwight in, because if you have X number of people doing this kind of role, then you know the ROI stacks up. Yeah, and another one that we're about to start implementation on, they had recruiters that basically went into the CRM, find open vacancies, and would go, "Hey, Lysha, here's some of our open vacancies." They were doing that. Each recruiter, 22 of them, were doing that 1 to 2 hours a day, finding these roles, emailing out to candidates, and then waiting for a response to come back. It's a simple task that we can automate. So it's that kind of, that's not a hard cost saving impact. However, it means your recruiters can focus on the selling.
And the human interaction side, which I think when I think back to some of my early interviews around AI and listening, you know, I listen to so many different podcasts and sources of people that know more about this topic than I do. I'm a user, I suppose, and I'm a consumer. And I want to make sure that people that are either coming into the industry now, because we get a lot of people listening who are new people, and those who are running companies, are not afraid about embracing this. I think that's the reality when, you know, human beings don't like change, especially if they're doing well on, you know, you plateau and you have a safety net and, you know, this is the way it's always been done. And I think one of the greatest joys of being a representative of this industry is how innovative we have always been and adaptable we've always been. But I think that, you just kind of get this narrative that people think, oh my God, you know, AI is going to replace all the jobs and all the people and all the recruiters. And I actually, when I was doing my research into what you do specifically, and you know, this isn't a pitch for, we're not doing a pitch for Dries's business here. It's not about that. It's about saying that out there are systems and AIs available that allow you to go and do the enjoyable part of your job. And for me, it's about that human interaction. No one's going to replace that. This is just taking over the dross parts of the job.
Agreed. Yeah.
So in terms of the way that Dwight is going to evolve, has Dwight got other family members? Where do you see the progression of where? I mean, we're on a trajectory, right? And from what I understand, you know, it's going from artificial to alien intelligence. So these, I don't understand the lingo, but you know, they're thinking for themselves. What trajectory do you think that we could potentially be on as an industry in, say, if we came back and revisited this in even 5 years?
Yeah.
Where do you think the industry will be?
So first and foremost, has he got family members? What I love, and of course I would, right, is our clients are setting up like Dwight's own inbox. So like it'll be Dwight at the Winter Group as an example. And so they really talk about Dwight and employing almost an army of Dwights. We are toying with the idea of do we have other characters? I think it's part of it is go to market messaging, right? With one character, it's easier.
Yep.
People have said, "Oh, why is he not a person of color? Why is he not a female?" And or why is there not more diversity around him? And you kind of look at it and go, clues in the name, generic human tasks. You really want to give that to a more diverse person than a white
White man.
male. No. So think about what you
White
said.
straight man
Yeah,
from UK.
exactly. But it's not beyond the realms of the possible. Christmas is coming up. We're thinking of maybe, hey, do we put some of the team's faces on little Dwights, like you can animate the elves type thing. So we have some. We like to have a bit of fun. Hopefully, people that follow us have seen that with like when we have new starters, announcement videos, and things like that. But to kind of look forwards to look back, if you like, where we'll be in 18 months' time. I think first and foremost, there's a huge opportunity to adopt these kind of technologies still. It's not penetrated that deeply. So the as is state, for us, that would be taking processes that are well defined, if this, then that, with exceptions, etc. That's what we teach Dwight to do, right? But then you alluded to what we are now doing as well from a product perspective is fusing the kind of set processes, as I say, that's what we do today, with AI agents. And really the ability there that AI agents have is to more intelligently interpret certain inputs. And we see that going hand in hand with Dwight. So some of it will need interpretation through like an AI agent bot, and then some of it will be Dwight taking on the defined process. To give you a practical example on that, if I may, for example, in the US, if you look at healthcare, where you're having to do, or it could be construction in the UK, right? If you're having to do drug screening, for example, the drug tests can come in from all sorts of different clinics in all sorts of different wonderful shapes and sizes in terms of format of those certificates coming back. What we're able to do with Dwight is like, if you take a timesheet example, we can, okay, for this client is this template, for that client is that template. We can scrape the timesheet information. Where it could be any form or any template, then that's normally where the more structured way of working doesn't work so well. So that's where we could apply, again, in the example of the drug screening, where we could apply some of this intelligence to look at this unstructured data coming in on an image, maybe interpret it, and then away we go. So that's very much where we're heading and where we see the market heading for this. But as I say, there's still so much untapped potential, Lysha, of lots of people talking about recruiters. Your candidate, if you look at the Bullhorn Global Trends report or whatever it's called from just a month or so ago, the candidates are saying 60+% of candidates are saying they are comfortable not only with AI part of the recruitment process, but to run the whole process. So that's pretty staggering. And I think the reality is, if you then flip it to the recruitment companies, we haven't got the infrastructure yet to support that, right? And to your point, it's the automating of the mundane so that you don't lose the people touch, the human touch of the recruiters talking to candidates at the right point in the cycle. Because equally, you don't want them to be talking to candidates that haven't been qualified and just wasting their time. So yeah, it's a long-winded answer, but hopefully
It's not, but there's 2 points that I want to make from that without having to repeat what you've said. I think one thing is that from a transactional point of view, that's the element we're removing. We're keeping the consultant part of the job,
yeah.
which to me is paramount in ensuring that there is longevity for our industry and for anyone that earns money through recruitment. And I think the second thing is that I'm going to make a prediction. I think we're going to start to see recruitment consultancies themselves taking on data specialists to work for them. I think we're going to start to see on the C-suite data officers, because most recruitment MDs don't necessarily understand how to interpret data, how to utilize the data. We're not data experts, but I think data analytics is becoming such an intrinsic part of how you ensure you attract, engage, hire, and retain your people and ensure you have a commercial business. I mean, what do you think? My crystal ball's right?
I think you're half right.
Okay.
So I would say you're absolutely spot on in terms of the importance of the data, but I do think if you look at, I mean, I was doing some analysis using just ChatGPT. I asked it, how many administrative workers are there in the UK and US, not recruitment specific, right? And it pulled out from this report this data for the UK and mentioned the source from this report, the
Yeah.
US, and then it did a whole analysis on penetration and actually produced me a chart, a bar
Okay.
chart.
Mm-hmm.
So where I'm getting to is I think these AI agent bots
Mm,
will actually do the interpreting for you.
okay.
Where we are today, and certainly where we will be for some time, is you still have to teach it, tweak it to
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, I don't agree with this assumption, use this assumption instead. So I think you're spot on. Data will become increasingly more important. I'm just saying maybe the way that will be consumed might be somewhat different to what you were articulating there.
I have to say, I'm a very late adopter to ChatGPT, but it's brilliant, and I would recommend everyone to just start using it. And you don't have to share it on, please don't share it for your LinkedIn post, for God's sake, but it'll give you information, it'll give you statistics, it'll give you really useful data, I think, but it might just give you ideas. And apart from anything, you
Yeah.
can find a whole menu from it, you can book a whole holiday from it. Just don't be afraid of it. And maybe I'm saying that to certain types of people who still feel there's a little bit of a threat in giving over this information to, you know, something that's it's going to be out of our control at some point.
And anonymize it, right, Lysha? To your point, don't put in chat automation if you're asking questions about a company. Just say company X and then copy and paste it and change that. So
Right.
there's ways around it. It's these kind of large language models ultimately have been trained on lots of data, can get that data to you much more quickly. But the key is in how do you harness it and how do you guide it? So, for example, on our chatbot side, people have probably seen in the news lots of chatbots that are hallucinating, slagging off the company that supposedly they're working for. We fixed that with putting some type parameters around these large language models that, again, think of it as just a knowledge base that's been trained. You have to tell it certain things like don't answer questions that are racist or don't do this, do this. And that's where the refinement, I think, still comes in. So with ChatGPT, as an example, use it, but then check the assumptions and make sure you give it the right kind of inputs to get to the right information.
Get out what you put in. It's like a perfect way to segue to thanking you for your time today. It's been really enjoyable, and I hope that people have found this really insightful. We'll make sure that there's links for anyone, and if anybody's interested to listen or watch your amazing podcast as well, we'll make sure there's links to that. But thank you. I knew this would be good fun.
Thank you.
And what I like is that you've not blown my head with technology. And I think that again, a lot of typical salespeople like me have often had conversations where you've just gone, I don't really understand what you do. But I think Dwight is really simplified for people like me. So I look forward to meeting him in real life. I think if you're ever looking for Halloween outfit ideas, you need to go dressed as Dwight.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I want to not scare people with him, so maybe not for Halloween, but yeah, maybe
And
Christmas.
you know what I mean? Or book day or something, but you meant to go as a book character, but we'll going off tangent. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
on the
you.
Recruitment
I had a
podcast.
great time. Thank you very much. See ya.